Thank you. Can you all hear me? Okay. It's hard to tell if it's on. First of all, thank you to the Greater Phoenix Chamber and to all of the sponsors who make this possible every day. Creating strong communities of women is really important, and it's been part of what's helped me be successful in my career. So we're supposed to talk about the DNA of a risk taker, and somebody asked me and said, is that really you in the picture? And it is. One is jumping out of an airplane, obviously, which I've done 4 times. Just long enough in between that I forget how absolutely petrifying it is. And somebody says, you want to go. So part of being a risk taker could be having memory loss. The other one was a dare from a friend of mine, and that is the top of the CN Tower in Toronto. And you can go up to the top. That's my cousin Damien next to me. And while we're both smiling, in clenched teeth, he's going, this is the freaking scariest thing I've ever done. So it's getting through the fear sometimes. I want to thank you for having me here today. I do have almost 40 years of business experience, and I'm also at the end of this year turning 60. So it has been time to reflect and think about what's important and what have I learned. For me, success today is if each of you walks away risking a little bit more, being a little bit more vulnerable, being a little bit more courageous, and yes, inviting some fear into your lives. So the topic is DNA. It's really important for me to explain a little bit about my childhood DNA because it's really impacted who I am today. I'm adopted. I was the oldest child. Anyone else the oldest in the room? All that responsibility that you feel protective, that was a part of it. My mom was Canadian and my father was British, and they probably really weren't designed to be together over time. And so a lot of my growing up was my mom trying to leave my father and raise 3 kids on $10 an hour, and ultimately coming back, and we would move and they'd go somewhere else, until ultimately they were divorced, I think, when I was 12. So really promoted my being protective of my mom. And a lot of I don't know if there's any single moms in the room, but everything that kind of comes with that. So I was very proud of my mom, and we had different kinds of discussions. She's been a huge influence in my life, all about social justice. And she marched with Martin Luther King. She dated a black man when we lived in rural Wisconsin. She did all kinds of things that emphasized how important it was to be strong and to be independent. In fact, I went to kindergarten in England, and we left my dad again, came back to live with my grandparents in Peoria, and my first day of first grade, Mom had dropped me off and got called back to the school because I had decided I didn't want to say the Pledge of Allegiance. And in my mind, based on dinner conversations, there was not liberty and justice for all. So Mom got hauled back into school, and she supported me. She supported my decision, and so I was able to stand respectfully while everybody else said it. And she was a big part of telling me that what I thought mattered in creating that independence. At the same time, I was developing this fierce independence. Inside, I felt like this incredibly fearful misfit. You know, here we lived in rural Wisconsin. I mean, everything was different about us. I mean, we had sheep, everybody else had dairy cows, right? Very conservative kind of area, and my family just was different. My aunt and uncle lived in a commune in Toronto, and I used to go hang out with them. So I just didn't feel like I fit in, and part of me really wanted to fit in, and the independent part of me didn't want to fit in. It was really actually a pretty painful time. When I was in middle school, some little boy decided to give me the nickname of Dog. And so I already felt pretty weird and outcast, and that was, as you can imagine, incredibly painful. So what did I do? Like most of us, I armored up. You're not going to hurt me, right? I'm not going to let anybody get in. In fact, I might hurt you first. So lots of armor mixed in with the independence. Fortunately, I had sports. I was pretty smart, and I did pretty well in terms of that. So that became my way to get into a new school or make some friends. I had something there. Based on my parents moving and going, from the time I started kindergarten to the time I graduated college, I'd been to 12 schools, which made me a little chameleon-like, which I have to say is part of why I can stand up here and talk to you right now, right? So I've had a career in sales and building relationships. So not everything is negative when you think about it, right? It's part of our story builds who we are. My mom worked incredibly, and so if we wanted anything extra, we got jobs. My first job at 15 was as a car hop at A&W. And yes, I know how to roller skate. Because back then, I don't know if they do it anymore, you delivered your trays by roller skate. And I calculated from when I started at A&W till when I graduated from college, I'd had 18 jobs. I was a janitor at Pizza Hut. I cleaned green bean machines for Del Monte. I was a USDA potato inspector, which meant that you stood at this line and picked rocks out, so all the potatoes went in. But it really didn't seem, it just was ordinary, right? That was life for us, if you wanted that extra money. And as soon as I got my first job and I tasted that sense of freedom that you get with having your own money, I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked. I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship to college, a small college in southeastern Wisconsin. And about the time I was going to college, I was really sort of obsessed with this intention and dream that I had set to travel Europe, to backpack Europe. And I didn't have a clue how I was going to get there, how I was going to make that happen, but it was building inside me, and I knew if something came up. Well, it did. My junior year, there was an exchange program where I could go spend 3.5 months in England. And I was like, okay, I know I can get to England. If I get there, I'm gonna figure out how I'm gonna get around to the rest of Europe. And I did. So I worked really hard. Let me put it in context. This was 1980. I had saved up $800 that was gonna get me as far as I could. And I had my ticket home. So I knew I could spend all the $800. But there were no cell phones. There were no internets. There was no GPS. We really read maps. You'd go to the train station, you'd have to look and see where it was. It was the most amazing time for me. I traveled for 8 months after I quit school. I used Paris as a base. I'd met somebody who said you can keep your stuff there. Eurail passes. The life skills I learned were incredible. I remember having conversations with people that we didn't speak the same language, right? Food is a nice connection for people. And just those moments of fear when there was nobody to help me other than stepping into it and doing it myself. So it was a really, really formative time. Speaking of communication, back then I wrote a lot of postcards to my mom. And again, I didn't have enough money to call home, so I thought I was being very responsible. I had met this French family who was going to teach me how to sail if I would come on their boat and teach their kids English. All they spoke was French. Good for me, good for them. Sail from the coast of Spain down to Africa. So I didn't want my mom to worry, so I wrote her a postcard and I said, "Mom, don't worry if you don't hear from me for a while. I'm getting on this boat and we're going to Africa for a while." As you can tell, it didn't necessarily have the same effect that I wanted it to. So that was kind of the basis of it. And actually, it was that trip that was my connection to come back here to Arizona. I had met somebody who was traveling there who actually went to Prescott College. And I came back and visited her on a spring break. And here's someone from Wisconsin, cold, cold, wet Wisconsin. And I came out to Arizona and I thought, I didn't know there was a choice, right, where you could live. So I was Inspired, went back to school. Then I had met someone here who invited me back for the summer to work upholstery. I had a job anyway, so I came back out. Well, within the first week, that didn't really work out, so I spent the rest of the summer, for those of you that have been here for a while, giving plasma at the Plasma Center across from ASU for $10 a pop. At that time, all the restaurants had a happy hour, so you could go get Mexican food and stuff almost every night, and I slept on an air mattress. It was a blast, actually. It was really fun. And by the time I was done with the summer, I was convinced that I was going to come back to Arizona. So I had one more semester to get my degree in business and marketing, and then I was out to Arizona. My original goal was that when I got here, I wanted to go to Thunderbird, because now I have this incredible passion for traveling. And I was like, how am I going to do this? So I thought, I'll come out here, I'll get a degree, my master's in marketing, I'll work for a global company, and then I'll get transferred. And who knows where, but I just love to travel at this point. It was everything. So I thought the best way to share my career and my hair evolution was through pictures. So I finished up school in December of 1982, packed up everything I had in a car that looked just like that one. What didn't fit inside, I strapped on top of the back. And I looked like Jed Clampett of the Hillbillies. But I drove across the country to get to Arizona. And what's unique about that Plymouth Fury is those are the cars where the seat goes all the way across. And so I had my sleeping bag, so I slept in the car all the way out. And the car was so old, I bought it from a professor, it didn't even have a radio, so I had a cassette player that I played tapes all the way out driving across. Well, I only had $500 when I came, and there was no way in hell I was going home. So I was down to 200, and I had made some really poor miscalculations, because I was a total nobody here. So then I was looking through the paper for jobs. Remember, no internet. I was applying for insurance jobs. No offense to anyone in insurance, but I was not meant to sell insurance. And I was down to 200, and somebody said, you know what? You need to have your resume printed instead of copied. And I'm like, whatever. What does that mean, right? You want me to spend $30 out of my 200. So that little store beneath the car was where they sent me down the street. At the time, it was the only franchise west of the Mississippi, and it was called American Speedy Printing. So I went in, figured out what that meant to get my resume printed. It was a little while you wait kind of place, and really I never left. What ended up happening was I met the guy who had bought the franchise. He was really more of a printer. He'd had a couple small locations in Michigan and then had just bought this one. So he was looking for someone to help him build the sales and go market in those days. And I needed a job. I just needed a job at that point. What we ended up, though, working out after talking was something you don't hear about very much anymore. And it was an earn-in sweat equity deal. So if I could help him build sales to here, then I could earn 5% of the business. And then if I could grow sales to here, I could buy 5% more at a price we set back here. So with an incentive to do it. You don't hear about it very often, but it was a great opportunity for me to be in business, and that was what I loved. I don't like paper, I don't like how ink smells, I really don't care about it, and people find that hard to believe. I love business. Satisfied clients, those kinds of things were what inspired me, and it happened to be in printing. So that was 1983, and we became business partners, and I started growing and doing things. At one point, we had a location in Phoenix. At one point, there was a location in Tempe. I was part owner of a sign company for a while. That didn't really work. And then in 1989, we actually outgrew the little strip mall. I think the roof was also falling into. It was a really rinky-dink little place. And we built a building that's up on top that you see there. That really was one of the best things I ever did in my career. We remained partners until 1996. I was finally able to buy the entire company after 13 years. And while that sounds really great, if you think about the math behind it, I'm not sure I'm that smart, right? Because I kept building the value of the company so I could pay more, so I could build more, and so I could pay more. So I paid more than it was worth, but that was okay. So thinking back on the 38 years that I've been doing this, I thought, what are some of these career milestones or achievements that I'm really proud of? And what I am proud of is during that time is doing well and doing good at the same time. This is when my concept of blending my life really came together. I was experimenting with some opportunities in community leadership. My volunteering role grew. I was active in the Phoenix Chamber, in the Scottsdale Chamber. I served on Scottsdale's Human Services Commission and the Housing Board. I did Valley leadership and Scottsdale leadership. It was really intoxicating all at the same time, kind of blending those things together. I had no idea how easy it is to make a difference in your community. And I just kept wanting to do more and more. Blending my passion and my business and my life together. There's a lot of blurry lines there. One of the things I was able to do that I'm proud of was start a baby diaper drive. And for 15 years we collected diapers, wipes, and funds for the families at Homeward Bound. And then I think when we were finished at 15 years, about $1.2 million worth of diapers, wipes, and supplies. And we did a visual one time. If you took the diapers and opened them up end to end, we figured it went from America West Arena to the south rim of the Grand Canyon. So that was really special, and even more special, I was able to hand the organization off to a friend of mine, Ginger. She's turned it into the Diaper Bank of Central Arizona, serving 40 nonprofits and giving away 1 million diapers a year. So that's really I also, again, my life is not linear. I'm trying to blend things together. I was asked by someone if I wanted to go on a medical mission. Well, why not? I have all kinds of medical experience, right? So I said yes, and I went to Mali, Africa, visited Timbuktu, and incredibly other touching places, right? Third world country, very different kind of trip. And when I came back, a friend and I raised $85,000 and had a school project built there, a school, latrines, libraries, gardens, goats, the whole kind of thing. And so that was really a milestone for me as well. In 2000, as it was mentioned, I was an Athena recipient, and I've been very fortunate to be recognized for a lot of things in my career, and that one is the most special. And if you do have a chance to nominate somebody for it, if you've never been to the luncheon, I really encourage you to go. To me, it meets my values, and it's for everything that I believe is right in life. Yes, it's about business success and excellence. There are awards just for that. It's about community service, going deep and not just wide. There are awards for that. It's also about bringing other people along with you and mentoring and doing those types of things. And so to be recognized for doing all three was very, very touching and personal to me. In 2005, there was another milestone, and we reached $2 million in revenue. And that's important because I went back and I checked with Forbes of all of the women who own businesses in the US, 2% of them reached the $1 million milestone. And so 2 million, I know, I see some faces, it's really true. Women are wonderful entrepreneurs. A lot of times they're balancing that maybe with families and other things, and it's not about the revenue. Just like skydiving, by 2007, I had forgotten that I didn't want another business partner, ever. And I met the gentleman in the red. His name is Ted Raymond. I actually hired him as a consultant to help me on a project. And in the process of talking to each other, we ended up sharing the same values, realizing that 1 + 1 could be 3 if we were able to merge his company into mine. And we also set up a structure so I could pay it forward, the opportunity that I had to build my business sort of slowly over time buying in. So that was really great. He's a wonderful, wonderful person. A lot of partnerships don't work out well. So in my mind, that was never say never, right? Be open to possibilities. So then a year later after we've done this, if you remember, in Arizona, we had a horrible recession, 2008. And for us, we'd had an emphasis in the real estate industry. That was even more painful. But we lost close to $1 million in revenue over probably 4 to 5 months. People just stopped doing business. And for those of you in the room who are entrepreneurs, I can only tell you that that was the hardest time, because as an employer, we know we hold your lives and the lives of your families in our hands. And it was a really, really difficult time, and we did our best to not only stay in business, but be respectful and do what we could for the people who worked for us. And I'm happy to say, obviously, we're still here today. That was a huge milestone. So the business continued to evolve based on technology, probably not unlike many of you. And we were sort of moving in a different direction than our franchisor. They were staying very traditional kind of print, and we were moving into creative and into the agency side and some of those kinds of things. So in 2018, we did not renew the franchise and license agreement. So what that meant was, by contract, I had to move out of the building that I own, 10 miles away. We're now in the Cotton Center, and I had to give up the website, and I had to give up the telephone number. So this was really our chance to reshape the business, and we ended up with Pixa, which you see the logo there, and we had a business that was the more traditional printing and mailing, and then the other sort of agency side. So we've been there for about a little over a year right now, and things are going well. In January of this year, we also had the opportunity to finish this amazing deal. It took us longer than we thought with the recession for Ted to buy out the rest of my ownership in the company. So as of January 31st, I'm not an owner in Pixa. I still support them and work there a little bit. I love them, I love the team, but life is new. The last logo is what's new, although it's not really new. About 6 years ago, I realized that there was a transition happening for me, and I got a transition coach. And in that process, realized that I really wanted to become a coach and do some advising and share all these things that I might have learned along the way. So I started the company One Creative View. And the focus really for me in general is curating stronger women leaders and communities of bold women. Women who lead both with humanity and women who, most importantly, believe in themselves. So there were lots of stumbles. I can't put 38 years together. I can tell you that there are many times when I felt like an imposter, and I would caution you to just look at somebody else and think that everything's okay, right? I was an imposter. I never had a written business plan. Oh my gosh, all of those kinds of things that we tell ourselves. I was hiking this past weekend with a very well-recognized woman leader in our community. We were both laughing about what happened to us last week and sharing our imposter stories. You know, when we were in that space and met somebody else, it still happens, but it happens a lot less. So what did I learn? I learned that $200 can change your life. What happened to me, going back to that first business partner, was that 12 years together, we were a disaster together. It was horrible. I didn't respect him at all. I felt like I needed to shield our employees from him. It was very emotional, very eruptive, didn't want to do anything with technology. Things were changing, and it was horrible. I went to work every day with a pit in my stomach. It was so painful. And I felt just in this spot. Here I'd put 12 years of my life. Every dime I earned, we reinvested into another location or something different. And I had a chance, I actually went on vacation. And when I came back, I took a single sheet, titled it Intent to Buy, and wrote out my offer, no price, and here's my deposit check. And honest to God, it was $200. It was what I had. I had no idea how I was gonna buy them out. I had no idea if anyone would finance me. I just knew the pain of going to work and what I now know, living out of alignment of my values was too painful. And my values are integrity and courage and creativity. And it took all three of them for me to make that happen. Obviously, I did find someone who believed in me and helped me finance it. But going to work every day and not respecting my partner was a level of integrity I couldn't live with. So using your values to guide you, if you don't know what yours are, spend some time, because your values are part of your toolkit. They'll help you make decisions. They'll help you know what's right and what you might want to change in your life. Blend instead of balance. I talked a little bit about that. Again, it's a non-linear life. What's important to you that you can kind of weave in? I had my community, my passion, my work. At the end of the day, it's got to be a blend for me. And some smart person, not me, said, your priorities determine your capacity. And so when you think about if you've got your life really sort of tunnel vision or set aside, how can you blend those in a way that invites more of whatever it is you want into your life? The last one, leave room for surprises, right? Be open to possibilities. My entire career was really nothing more than a loosely written script. And I think the balancing that of feeling like an imposter because I didn't have a script, I didn't have the business plan set out, yet it was here, and I was able to access other parts, right? My heart, my intuition, to put the plan together. I was leaving some room for what might come up. Some of you might know Joseph Campbell. He's the person most credited with understanding and sharing what the hero's journey is. And he has a great quote. We must be willing to get rid of the life we've planned so as to have the life that's waiting for us. I've always enjoyed that. So this is what most people think of me as, right? When we're talking about DNA, and I was thinking about it, there's a couple different kinds of DNA. So I have some rational DNA, which means I don't want to die. My partner wishes I had a little bit more of it. We call her Safety Sandy. But this is the external risk taker. This is what most people think of me. And I have to tell you, this part is so easy for me. And I'll tell you why. It's when I feel most alive. It's just in my body. I'm challenging myself. I'm exploring. I'm learning something new. I'm growing. It's endless possibilities. And even planning and training for something, whether it's the dance or planning for a trip, I swear I enjoy the planning almost as much as going there. So it's what makes me feel alive. And I've been able to incorporate serving others, right? Being a global citizen and opening my heart up to people all around the world. I have some amazing friendships and connections because of it. And while I was working in my career, I managed to visit over 30 countries. So there is a way to blend medical missions. I mean, I counted pills. You don't have to be a doctor. I learned that. So is this kind of DNA, is this really risky? Is it scary? Maybe to some. But to me, it's really all about being joyful, and it's about creating experiences that are memories I'll never have. It's being alive in service and gratitude. So what did I learn in those 30 countries? I learned to say yes more often, and if you do walk away with anything, I hope there's something that's been hanging out there that you'll consider saying yes to, because my life has been so much richer for it. Somebody said to me, do you want to go on a medical mission? Sure, yes. Do you want to get involved in a cause? Do you want to rappel off the building for Special Olympics? Sure, yes, why not? More importantly though, there were risks that I take, and one of my things growing up is I don't like to look stupid, right? I'm sure most of you don't either. So risking those things that you don't know how to do yet, right? I'm gonna try this even though I don't know how to do it, and I'm gonna learn, and that's gonna be part of my experience. I'm not gonna enjoy it when I'm done. We're all the same. This is really a huge part of me, and for those of you who know me know I have many causes. But being a global citizen and thinking of how, yes, what happens to my family here, what happens to my community, my state, my country, but also the world. I have to tell you, there is nothing different between all those people I met in a third world country and all of us here today, other than the lottery of where we were born. Everyone wants clean water to drink. Everybody wants their children to be educated. They want a safe place to live. So if you walked away with anything, understanding that you can invite more of the world into your life and be a global citizen, I think that might help us solve some of the many difficult issues we're facing right now. So, what opportunity is in front of you right now that you could say yes to? It's going to be a theme as we keep going, so think about it. I really hope that you do have one by the time we're finished here. So here's where the real risk exists for me anyway. I don't know about you, my internal risk DNA is all about my heart. My riskiest moments happen in my heart. In fact, courage, the Greek word for courage, means heart, right? So one of the riskiest things for me to do was to love unconditionally and love 100%, open my heart, risk being hurt in order to really be loved. And it took me until I was 50 to meet my partner Sandy and have a healthy, strong, and loving relationship. Hopefully you don't have to wait till 50. I'm a mentor to Brianna. She is a gal who is aging out of foster care, and so the openness and the connection that we have I find very, very humbling. It's risky to do that, and I appreciate her opening her heart to me. Being an aunt to Olivia, I don't have children. That's as close as I ever got. I kind of get it now. What an amazing, amazing opportunity to open up and to be vulnerable. So I have to tell you though that my biggest teacher around love and opening up my heart was death. In the span of 2 years, my father first died, then my mother died, then my 92-year-old friend Dorothy, who I took care of for the last 10, 12 years of her life, died. Then my best friend Linda died of heart cancer, and to top it off, my 2 dogs died. It was truly as if the universe had a pick and said, okay, open your heart. You're gonna really feel all of this. You can't just feel love, you have to feel the pain that goes with it. And there was nowhere to hide, absolutely nowhere. My mom, I came home from a trip to Africa. The next morning ended up in ICU for 45 days, and over the period of 7 months to the day, passed away. And she asked my sister and I to turn off her machines. My friend Dorothy, I sat the last 3 days with her of her life, holding her hand as she passed. And then I had the honor of helping to prepare her body when they took her away. Those are milestones and memorable moments in my journey of opening up my heart and of risk. For me to grow as a human being, I had to incorporate the pain and the joy. And with that, I learned a whole lot more about empathy. I didn't get it before then, right? I just didn't get it. So it's the wisdom that I got going through that journey of life to death with people that you love. And I'm guessing there's many of you here in this room who've lost someone you love. It took me, again, a long time to kind of get it. I had one more chance to really be vulnerable and see if I'd learned a lot, and that was 5 years ago when I chose to dance with the stars. That little black and white picture is the girl nicknamed Dog, right, in middle school. And I don't even know who asked me. Of course, I said yes to dance. I'd never seen Dancing with the Stars. I never danced growing up. I was a jock. In fact, I thought it was ridiculous. And I said yes. And I immediately went, oh my God, Eileen, what the heck are you doing, right? So I thought, okay, I'm gonna do this. So I started practicing 2 and 3 times a week. 6 months I practiced. It did not come easily to me. And it was really an amazing kind of activity. My partner Billy there ended up designing this really sexy, revealing sort of dance and costume. It's almost as if he knew that this was a big deal for me. And so, longest 2 minutes of your life, you're practicing 6 months for multiple times. So I get out there and I'm standing behind the curtain, waiting for my time to come out and dance. And it's almost like tests for me, right? It's the calm before the storm. It's like, if I don't know it now, right? There's nothing I can do. So we came out, we danced, and that moment you see in the picture was the reveal. And what happened in that reveal for me was that little girl went away. You know, the little ugly girl that felt weird, that felt like a misfit, got left behind stage, and Carmen, my alter ego, came out. When we were done, Billy turned at me and he said, "What happened to you?" He said, "You never danced like that in practice." And I was singing and just had a great time. And it was such a relief, almost as if, you know, pounds were lifted off my shoulder. I've carried that little girl inside me for a long time. So it was the ultimate in vulnerability. So yes, here's what I learned. Say yes, and then show up, right? Open your heart as well as your mind. Because colossal courage is really about showing up when you can't predict or control what the outcome's gonna be. And most importantly, risk loving more, right? And love, as I've learned, requires courage. Now, courage requires vulnerability. And really, vulnerability is my biggest barrier to almost anything I want in my life. And so being able to at least identify that helps me work with it. So surrender to surprise is a little bit different maybe than the say yes, because on that note, I had a huge surprise 3 years ago. Here's my actual DNA. In the mystery we call life, remember I said I was adopted, my partner Sandy is a DNA sleuth ancestry whiz-bang, and it took her 1.5 years, but she was able to identify my birth parents. And turns out my father had a heart attack at 38, but my mother was 80 and still alive. And so I've met my mother. I now have 3 new sisters. I have 3 new brother-in-laws, and I have 6 or 7 nieces and nephews. The picture on the left is my mom, Carol, the woman I grew up with, and she is still by far my mom, my role model, and my greatest influence. And I realized I can still gracefully blend a whole new family together. So really we have a new future, and in many ways, I have a completed past. The white shirt picture that we have here was actually last month at the Camelback Inn. We had a 3-year reunion to celebrate Patty's birthday, and everybody, all the sisters came with their spouses. So it was really kind of fun. And you know what my driving factor was? I have to tell you, as vain as I am, because I had a pretty good life with my mom. I didn't feel that, for me, there was a hole missing. I just wanted to know what I was going to look like. I mean, if you think about it, for those of you that aren't, you can look at your parents, you can see, your relatives, what it was, and that was an issue. And so I'm feeling pretty good about it. That woman is 82. In fact, the pictures up at the top, it was so bizarre, you could swap my baby picture for my youngest sister's baby picture. It was all very, very, very different. So let me wrap it up a little bit for you. I want to make sure we have time for questions. So when you're thinking about a risk-taker DNA, D, dance more with fear and risk. Your life will be so much fuller and richer, I believe, if you add even just a little bit more in, right? Step into your fear, step into something that you don't know how to do. Be vulnerable enough to say yes. Dance with the dog. Everybody goes, what? What that means to me is find those moments for you when you're really alive. Right? You're aligned maybe with your purpose, you're aligned in love, but you're aligned and you feel energized in your whole body. And for me, that often happens when I'm coaching. So if I've helped and supported someone who's shifted their thoughts that I now know is going to amazingly impact their life, and they leave, I dance with my dog. It's just a way of sort of getting out. But really, whatever you're passionate about, maybe it's dancing with your kids, whatever it is, find something and celebrate that moment. Dare to be yourself, right? Be authentic. Show up in a way that allows you to learn and to grow and also be confident, right? Create the life that you want. Those of you that know me know one of my favorite lines is, most of us don't know what we want, we're just pretty damn sure we don't have it. I really believe that that's pretty true, right? So spend a little bit of time thinking about what it is that you want to create for your life. We've talked about don't balance, blend. Where are there parts of your life that you could weave together a little bit more that end up giving you more of something that you love and that you want? So try to balance, don't blend. And I'll tell you, as women in this room, I get to talk to a lot of you, and you're suckered by balance. You're really, really suckered by balance. Let me work out. Oh, I'm not very good this week. I haven't worked out 7 times. I gotta be there for my kids. I gotta do community service. I gotta get the next promotion. I'm never good enough because I'm not balanced. And I would offer that blending says, at the end of the day, it's just before you go to bed, you're in the bathroom, looking in the mirror, brushing your teeth. Can you ask yourself the question and say, yes, I did the very best that I could do today with what I had and the choices I need to make. And I'll start over tomorrow. Maybe I was able to go to my daughter's brownie meeting today, and tomorrow I might have to make a different decision and go to my staff meeting instead. But start over the next day, because so many of you, in particular moms, you never give yourself a break. And from what I can tell you, never feel like you're a good enough mom. So what could be possible if you would just start over the next morning and do the very best you can every day? Do it now, don't wait. At this point in my life, being close to 60, I have lost people, and I see many people who are impacted, who had a very linear career and life plan, and something's gotten in the way. Maybe it's an illness, maybe it's a death. Something got in the way. So don't wait for 10 pounds from now, right? Don't wait to get that degree you've been thinking you want to try, if that's what it is. Challenge linear thinking in your life. How can you blend those things? How can you invite the 30 countries into your career? Whatever it is that's important, right? But don't get suckered into feeling like there's balance and you have to do these at a certain time. You can create. This one you have to think about a minute. Never fearless, but always brave and bold. There is a real myth out there from my perspective. And I see people all the time who think they're gonna wake up and today they won't be afraid and today they'll have the courage. In my experience, you don't wake up with it because fear and courage, they exist in the same plane, right? So when you step into the fear, you get more courage. And then you take another step and another step. So you're always gonna have fear. Do it anyway. Be brave, be bold. Because if you are waiting, I just don't think it's gonna happen. Unless maybe some of you have some different experiences. Act as if is a way of thinking about your life. Tom and I were talking about this on the way in. I believe in setting broad intentions, right? Goals are maybe okay for some things, but I believe in setting an intention and then being unattached to the outcome, right? So I knew I wanted to backpack across Europe. I didn't have a plan with steps. I set the intention and put it out there, and then I acted as if. I mean, I literally walked around and told people, yeah, I'm gonna be backpacking Europe, right? And I knew if I told enough people, I would actually go, because at the end, when I was scared and wanted to back out, there's no way I would lose face, right? I was definitely gonna go. So you set an intention, you act as if that's what it is, and then you live from that point. So the last piece is, I am enough now. And there's magnets on all of your place settings. I hope you put those on your refrigerator if it's not stainless steel. And look at them. And on those days when you're not so certain or you're not feeling so great, those are the two most important words in the English language. I am. Powerful, powerful words. Anybody know what the 4 most important words are? Jackie does.
I believe.
Absolutely. I believe in you. And for those of you who have children, I hope you use that a whole lot, especially with them. I'm enough now, not when. Don't peg your self-worth and your happiness on milestones and achievements. Those are okay, but they're not success for me. Success is a feeling. It's not a number. So, I've been planting this question with you. What could you create? What is it that you would try if you were really bold and if you invited a little bit of risk, sprinkled on a little bit of vulnerability, and then you boldly took a first step? I hope there's something going on for you. Because really, boldness is a thought. You are only a thought and a step away from whatever that is. Now, each of you all have your own little girl inside you, that inner voice that whispers in your ear, the gremlin that says, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not pretty enough. Whatever your particular tape is, everybody has one. Challenging those limiting beliefs, and we all have them, has literally been the hardest thing that I've ever done. So winning for me means that I am a beautifully imperfect human being. And my journey really has been, thinking about being here with you today, kind of circular, almost finding my way back home. And it was finding my way back to being able to love myself. Speaking out loud those limiting beliefs, exposing that little girl, the weird, misfit, ugly girl, and the imposter business person, right? Letting go of pleasing and perfecting and performing as a way to bolster my happiness or my self-worth. Brené Brown, who I am a huge fan of, says, loving ourselves is the hardest thing that most of us will ever do, and I agree. The other part of that is that comparison and judgment are the thief of happiness. And I would bet that some or all of you walked in the room today, right? And you looked around and you started comparing, and maybe you made some judgments about people that you saw. We're human beings, and that's what we do. But understand that really does get in our way of happiness. So real risk and true success for me is a little bit different, right? The career milestones and the accomplishments, don't get me wrong, they're very meaningful. They're part of what got me here. But now I get to head into my 60s feeling successful, a little bit more comfortable in my own shoes. I'm living with a lot more vulnerability. My heart is way, way open. I think it's so open it can never go back and close again. And I'm living a full life because I understand now that life is not all about joy. It's about pain and joy together. So that's how I'm going to define success moving on. And believing most days that I am enough now. So none of you in this room really need to wait as long as I did to learn all of this. Each of you, every single one of you, is really enough right now. You're all beautifully imperfect. And if you take one risk around that, just believe me. Thank you.
We're going to take questions. Does anyone have a question for Eileen?
Shy. Jill?
I'll ask an easy one. How much did you raise at Dancing with the Stars?
$23,000, I think. Yeah. I don't think anybody's broken my record yet, and I was the people's choice, so it did work. Anybody else? Catherine?
What's your next big adventure?
There's a couple, no surprise. For my 60th birthday, I wanted to invite adventure travel back into my life, and so I will be rafting in the wilds of Quebec. You get helicoptered in August for a week, and really, really looking forward to that. My other adventure, if you will, is later this month I get to go train. I qualified to be part of Brené Brown's Dare to Lead training, and this woman is my idol. I have to tell you, I set an intention on my bucket list to have lunch with her one day. No idea how that was going to happen. So we're having lunch together. There are another 119 people having lunch with us, but I figured that was that. So that really feels like an adventure for me too. Anyone have any yes they're going to say that you'd be willing to share with the rest of the group from today? There's one.
I've been in the hospitality business since I was 19 years old, and now I'm 33, and I decided I'm going to start my business.
Congratulations. Thank you. Anyone else? All right, secretive.
Would you like another question? You want to go to door prizes?
I don't know what time. It's up to you.
We're going to go with a question.
Okay.
Can you tell us about a woman that inspires you and why? And what about them do you try to embody?
Ooh. That's really easy. I met a woman named Catherine who used to be at the high point of her career. She was the director of all of the visuals for Four Seasons Resorts. So very artistic, photographer, amazing, all visual arts. And Catherine got an eye disease. And Catherine today is almost blind, literally. And she is the most amazing person I've ever met. She lives in Toronto. She still travels on her own. We play Scrabble and she looks at the letters like this. She still paints. She still does photography. She's figured out different things. And I went to visit her. We were in Toronto and she goes, and my partner was gone. She goes, "Oh, good. You can help me go pick up the toaster that's getting repaired." And I'm like, okay. She took me all around Toronto with her white stick, walking. We got on a trolley. I had no idea where I was going. We went and picked up the repaired toaster and went all over. And I think about Catherine often because I cannot imagine what it must be like to rely on people and to be able to continue. And part of me thinks I would just sit at home and never go anywhere. And she is incredibly courageous. And she sent me a picture about this big after one of my dogs passed away. And she had painted it, and she has glasses. And she does it, she paints her fingernails a different color so she can see where the end of the brush is, and painted me this amazing picture. So yes, Catherine inspires me a lot.
Very good. I think we'll go to door prizes.
Okay. So one of the door prizes I have to tell you, if you have not gotten this book yet, Abby Wambach, Wolfpack, I was so inspired the other day reading it. It's incredible. Brene Brown is pushing it. It's on her list. Amy, if you don't know, was a two-time Olympian. She's the soccer person, and it is really powerful for you if you have daughters and anyone for women. And then I also have a coaching session for anybody that would like to explore what their yes is. So,
All right, well, we have winners.
all right.
So